Jason from GR Rideshare Adventures. We have a different kind of podcast this week. We interviewed a couple of the team members from Experience GR. They are a travel bureau for Kent County in our area in Michigan. And they offer a CTA program, which is a Certified Tourism Ambassador. Well, how can that help drivers by being a CTA? Well, that's what the interview will explain. But basically, it is a kind of a tourist program, and you go through a class and become an ambassador, and you're able to convey, really cool things about the city, and hopefully that turns into better tips for you. So we're going to partner with them. Jesper, Ben, and Nick and I are going to take the class, and then after that point, we're going to push it out to you guys and try to get something set up where a bunch of us can take the class in one big group at one time and become ambassadors for the city. So listen to the interview. If you have any questions, please email me and I will forward them to either Dave or Lisa to try to get those answered. And obviously we'll have more of an understanding when we take the class. So enjoy. Welcome, guys, to the GR Rideshare Podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm here with Nick.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hey there.
And Lisa.
Hi.
And those voices are from Experience GR. Nick gave Dave a ride at some point, and they connected and shared business cards, and so we finally put something together. And we're just going to be here talking about what Experience GR is and how it can be beneficial to rideshare drivers. So what is Experience GR?
Yeah, so Experience Grand Rapids is the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Grand Rapids and Kent County.
Okay.
Otherwise known as the Destination Marketing Organization for the area. And so what we do is promote visitation to Grand Rapids.
Okay. So is it frowned upon to say Experience GR?
Nope. That's
okay.
Because
I said that, and then you were like, Experience Grand Rapids. I just want to make sure.
Experience GR is the lingo.
Okay. Why was it started, and who started it?
Yeah, so Experience Grand Rapids has been around for over 70 years, and it was originally started, again, to drive visitation. It was originally the Kent County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay.
It's kind of a mouthful, so we're doing business as DBA, Experience GR. And we were started really to represent the destination with long-term goals around the community and how we can grow our community through kind of a travel and tourism strategy. So for visitors, DMOs or destination marketing organizations are a really key part of the city. We kind of act as a broker or an official kind of launch point for conventions, for leisure visitors, even for residents. And we encourage business travelers and visitors and locals alike to engage with our historic and cultural and recreational sites and activities.
Well, that was quite the answer. Yeah. Let me, what is your role in the company? I forgot to ask you that.
So this is Dave. I'm working on the sales team. So
okay.
We work with groups. I work particularly with smaller groups, weddings, reunions, birthdays, group tour and travel, corporate outings, things like that. Basically anyone that needs about 50 hotel rooms at a time or less.
Okay.
And then we have a whole bunch of coworkers on the sales team that are working with national groups that are booking things like the National Sheriff's Association, which is, they're going to be booking 4,800 room nights over the course, in a couple of years when they come in. So 4,800 versus, 50 at a time. So it's slightly different. And then Lisa works on the marketing team.
So there's two different areas in Experience Grand Rapids. There's a marketing team that markets to the leisure traveler, and the sales team markets to those having conventions to get them to come to Grand Rapids. And we basically get paid for heads and beds because we're funded. We're a not-for-profit, and so we're funded by assessments to hotels based on number of rooms and also a percentage of the sales tax, and along with some funds from the county.
Okay.
So what I do, I'm visitor services manager, and the airport hires us to manage the airport information area. So the people with the green jackets are all Experience Grand Rapids people.
Okay.
And the other function is I run the Certified Tourism Ambassador Program, which is a national program that's been customized for Grand Rapids, going over the history, attractions, and customer service.
Okay. Thanks for answering the sales part, because I was going to ask, is that how you guys make money for the nonprofit, right? I mean...
Yeah. So the the technical part of it. Really, as far as riders and as drivers are concerned, we're free. We're here as a resource for the community.
Right.
But ultimately, the way we're funded is from hotel taxes. So hotel room night taxes and Airbnb taxes.
Okay.
So the long version is slightly more complicated. Happy to get into it if you
No, you can give us the short version.
The short version is for every $100 you spend at the Amway Grand, you're going to spend 6% on a Michigan sales tax, 15% on a Kent County lodging excise tax, and 4% on a bed tax. So that totals in 15%. So anytime you spend any amount of money at any hotel in Grand Rapids, you're spending 15% more on your total bill, and you'll see that when you
that sucks.
And
when you see that, you're like, oh, it's only $100 a night. Wait, $140.
Hey,
Yeah.
but here's the rub. Okay, so tourism represents about $1.16 billion in revenue to Kent County.
Yeah, wow.
So all of us 1.3 million people in Kent County would have to pay over $1,200 more in taxes because it offsets the cost for our infrastructure.
Interesting.
yeah, so $5 of that 15 comes to fund our organization specifically.
Oh, that's pretty good.
$4 goes to fund the DeVos Place Convention Center and to repay the loan that the city and the county gave us, the county. And the other 6% again goes to Michigan sales tax.
Okay. Interesting. Learning something.
Yeah, right. So that's why we really want to make sure that the first impression that they get from the Lyft and Uber drivers is a positive one. And we want to do anything possible to make sure that that happens.
Okay, good. I think we kind of talk what the purpose of Experience GR is. How many employees work for Experience GR?
So right now we have, I want to say, what do you think, Lisa? I think it's 26.
26, and we have about 15 to 18 part-time.
Okay. And so when the person at the airport gets paid a wage?
They're all part-time at the airport.
Okay, part-time. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't know if they were volunteers or anything
right. And
like
it's
that.
a well-sought-after job. There's a lot of people that want to do that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I have a whole bunch of people just waiting.
On a wait list?
They love it. It's like all you do is make people happy all day. You answer questions and guide them to where they need to go.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we also have between 3 and 5 rotating college interns as well.
Okay, neat. I have to say, I was looking at your site, and the pictures are absolutely amazing. I mean, do you have a photographer on staff, or do you guys buy those from somebody?
We work with several photographers in town.
Okay.
All very well known.
Okay. All right. I was just wondering because they're amazing. Yeah. It's a nice website.
Well, we got to put our best foot forward when it comes to that, right?
Especially on the web.
Right, because it's pictures that lure people
yes.
here, right?
I noticed that right away. Obviously, being in like this kind of thing, I'm like, man, those are good pictures.
Well, and you're doing a perfect example of it here at this podcast, and that is the broader goal of creating content, right? Content is king.
Yes.
And we do commission quite a bit of content, but we also have quite a bit organically that residents and visitors alike will kind of populate into our site. So when you're on social media, you can follow Experience Grand Rapids on any social media platform. But one of the good ways we have other content is we'll actually populate it from people that are sharing. We'll ask permission to use it, but
like
oftentimes,
Instagram.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So oftentimes, someone takes a cool drone photo of downtown. We'll Reddit, Instagram, Pinterest. I mean, we have quite a few other sites where we're pulling information from, but most of the stuff you see, especially in printed and collateral materials, is commissioned work.
Okay. That's very nice. What are like the boundaries for events for Experience GR? So would there be something that you would promote in Newaygo or probably not because it's got to be in the county, right?
Strictly Kent County.
That makes sense. That was kind of a dumb question.
With that said, though, there are other destination drivers such as Holland's Tulip Time. Grand Haven's Coast Guard Fest or other things that, we're aware of that. And we want to make sure that those events are successful too. So
you just don't really push them.
We don't necessarily push them, but I would say in my market with the specialty markets, a solid 30-40% of my clients in some way are involved with Tulip Time.
Okay.
So we do touch a lot of that.
Okay. What are the top 3 popular events in Grand Rapids that you guys see the most traffic from?
Art Price.
Well, yeah.
Art Price, Laugh Fest.
Laugh Fest?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am actually a volunteer for Laugh Fest. I work on the transportation team. I've done that for the last 2 years, and awesome organization.
Yeah, the Grand Rapids Jazz Fest also brought in a lot of people.
Really?
Oh yeah.
There's quite a few cultural festivals. The Polish Festival, Hispanic Festival, Asian Festival. Those do a really good job of driving visitation, especially among locals during the summer months.
Okay.
We measure a lot of our kind of goals by how many visitors come, what the hotel, we have kind of a few metrics. The hotel room revenue per available room, which is really given to you by the average daily rate and the occupancy percentage, right? So we have kind of these occupancy goals, but at the end of the day, what the events are is a really robust reason to visit. And so sometimes the events like maybe the Jazz Fest, which are particularly focused on locals, are still wonderful destination improvements and things that we very much want to be promoting.
Okay. Is there some sort of like survey that the hotel fills out so you kind of get some stats from that?
Oh yeah. So we have all the 74 hotels in Kent County report back to us what their occupancy numbers are.
Oh wow.
What their,
wow.
Yeah. So because we serve them. Our board of directors is made up of 25 people. 13 of them are general managers of hotels.
Oh, wow.
12 of them are people like the mayor and county commissioners and
Sure.
the president of the airport and things like that.
And everybody, we do a hotel survey every year, and it goes over a cross section of different things. How are we doing? In a lot of different areas. They ask about the CTA program, so we get a lot of feedback that we use to develop the next year.
Okay, Very cool. Nick, do you want to talk about the ambassador section there?
Oh, yeah, we can do that. All right. First question is, what is an ambassador for the city?
Anybody who interfaces with a guest is considered an ambassador. But the Certified Tourism Ambassador Program actually is this certification where you have CTA behind your name, where you really spent 4 hours with us and you've gone through the history and attractions, customer service. And so we rolled this out about the same time as the safety ambassador. So there's a little bit of a confusion. So Downtown Grand Rapids Inc. has the teal colored shirts, blue pants, people who go around the city.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them.
Yeah, they're all CTAs. They've all been through my training. But they're there to take people on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights until 3:00 in the morning safely to their cars. They hold your dog while you get a cup of coffee. They'll walk you across the street with an umbrella. And they also monitor those people that are panhandling and try to find out, well, why are you panhandling? And let's direct you to some services here in Grand Rapids that could be beneficial to you. So they really help with that a lot.
Wow.
But there are typically those people that are just parking their gold Cadillac and panhandling. So they try to sort that out, and they try to make it easier for our visitors by goal posting on either side of the person that's panhandling and saying, hey, there's a lot of organizations you can give to in this town. Don't feel intimidated by the guy. Don't give him money. Just,
Oh, they stand out by them?
Yeah. Well, they stand on either side of them. It's called goal posting. So for oncoming people, they don't do it all the time.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so.
Yeah.
Well, I drive from
you don't see it.
I drive from 9P to 3A, so I'm sure they're not out there doing it then. So, interesting.
All right. Well, will the program help someone who's extremely familiar with Grand Rapids?
Oh, yeah. I've had people here that have lived there all their life, and the history that we've got is probably richer than any CTA program in the country. There's probably about 28 to 30 CTA programs across the country, but the thing I will say about our program is we have the fastest growing program in the country, and I've trained over 3,700 people since August of 2013 without any advertising. It's just people talking to people, because people are really excited about Grand Rapids and everything that's going on here, and they want to be educated on how to properly convey that information to the people that are visiting. And I always cringe at ArtPrice because I always wonder, okay, are people going to get the right answers? So take I don't know out of your vocabulary, because you got these little handhelds. They have all the answers.
Yeah. Our prize is interesting. I've never actually gone down there. Isn't that terrible to say? My wife and kids have, but I'm kind of bummed that they took it away, or they're going to do it every other year. It seems, man, those businesses probably bank on that revenue and the hotels and everything too for that.
Especially with the 2 new hotels coming.
Yes.
Right.
Well, okay. A lot to say about that.
Did I touch a subject there?
But my husband and I have a couple of restaurants, and they really benefit greatly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Because it's a lot of foot traffic. So they're like, that looks like a great restaurant. Let's pop in there.
So the hotels and the restaurants are those that benefit from like a Laugh Fest or an Art Prize.
Yeah.
So,
So to add on that point, to the 2 hotels in development, there are 22 hotels in development in Kent County right now.
Oh, wow.
There's just downtown, there's a Staybridge Suites, an Embassy Suites, a Hyatt Place, an AC Marriott, a Residence Inn Marriott, and a Hilton Canopy just downtown. Not to mention the suburban hotels up in Walker and Kentwood and in Granville and et cetera, et cetera. As far as art price, they're actually changing to Project 1 in 2019 and Project 2 2021 and Project 3 2023, et cetera. And they're anticipating the same amount of visitors. They're just hoping to space them out between the first week, of September through the last week of October. They also are focusing on awarding that money that they had set aside. They give away about $200,000 just in grants before the actual event, and then they award $500,000 in prizes. They have about $700,000 on the line every year, and actually going to focus a lot of that money on an artist that will have international renown and hope to draw a different crowd to Art Prize again in 2020. And the last thing I'll say about it is that with the invent of Project 1, they still have 300 sponsors. And they still have 300 sponsors that are independently funding Art Prize. Art Prize is completely independent of other major donors the way it started. And those 300 sponsors who have multi-year contracts would not agree to something that would have less visitation. So
that's true.
You got to believe that they're going to bring it in a different way. When that team originally came up with Art Prize 10 years ago, nobody knew what they were doing, and we kind of put faith in them as a community.
Right.
And we're going to do it again, and it's going to be successful.
Well, it's worked so far, so you have no reason to not.
So just understand what they're going to be doing. So the money that they use for prize money, they're going to actually use it to actually get these artists to come here.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, over 10 years ago, there was an artist, Thomas something. He had these copper figures that were whimsical. Angry Mama is still at the Frederick Meyer Gardens across from the children's area.
Okay.
And the thing was to make sure you saw all of his his piece of art all over town. So it was like a mission. And so that was kind of a precursor to Art Prize. So, you envision bigger projects, higher caliber, larger or all over town. And I think we're going to be really amazed at what we're probably going to see. So I don't think it's a downside.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because you only read the news, right? And you're just like, oh, this is terrible. Art Prize has been great. Why are you taking away? Do you hate money?
Yeah. Well, the truth of it is, I don't think they wanted to pull the rug out of Art Prize 10, which is currently happening.
True.
The other component of it is some of the things are still unknown, and a lot of these announcements, instead of being announced in June, where they did for this year, who the artists are going to be and where they're going to be and things like that, they're going to have a lot of this information out by January of 2019. So look for first quarter announcements, and you'll really have a good feeling for it well in advance.
Okay. Well, that's good to know that there's still tons of sponsors and it's still going to be a big thing, because the way you read it, it's like, oh, great. This was great. Why aren't we doing it?
That's the writer's interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, we've obviously learned you can't believe everything you read, but it's still, I was just like, oh.
I agree with you on that it did seem to be, it was communicated in an ambiguous fashion, and I think there was a lot of confusion. So we actually, as a team, sat down with the Art Prize team and grilled them, which is why I have information that might not be as obvious.
How many times have you said that to people, like what you just explained to me? Like, no,
too many.
Yeah, you like spit it out and like, wait, I got to talk about this Art Prize.
Well, a lot of my clients come in for Art Prize, and so I had to go back to a lot of my clients that I was selling Art Prize 2019 to. Go back and say, hey, we're not going to do it. We're going to do this other thing. Let me tell you about the other thing.
Right. It's going to be just as good, I promise.
Yeah. Something like that.
All right. How much does it cost to be an ambassador?
$35. And that basically covers the cost of the binder, your pin, certificates. It's just covering the cost. That's all we wanted to do. And so you go through the program, and after you've been a CTA for a year, we actually give you this booklet that is full of 8 different attractions, and the value on it is probably, $400 to $500 for you and a guest to go to all these attractions, including Frederick Meyer Gardens and the Japanese Gardens, because the idea is we want the CTAs to go and visit these places.
And experience it.
And every one of those attractions count for 10 points towards your renewal, because every year you have to renew, because it is a certification.
Right.
And certified meeting planners, if they take the certified tourism ambassador program, it counts to their ongoing education. Okay. So it stands to reason we want to be knowledgeable about the town and continue to learn about it. So we give you the vehicle to do that free of charge for you and a guest.
Questions are popping into my head as you're talking. What is required from a CTA? Meaning, do you have to like work a shift, or do you have to? What do they have to do after they get the training? I guess.
No, the only expectation I have is once a day, at least once a day, ask somebody, "How may I help you?" And if you can't find anybody who doesn't know where they're going, go in the Skywalk, because they always are. There's always somebody there that needs. But if you go in Monroe Center, that seems to be a funnel where a lot of visitors go. But so once a day, ask somebody, "Can I help you?" Walk them to the destination, if possible.
Yeah.
If you have the time to do that, thank them for coming to Grand Rapids. Have them tell others what a great place we have here, and have them come back and see us again soon. And that's kind of like the Kool-Aid talk.
Yeah.
That we kind of, because if everybody is saying that when visitors come, they recognize that, you've made a choice to come here.
Right.
You're spending your hard-earned money to come here and enjoy the city.
Yeah.
We want you to enjoy the city. We appreciate the fact that you've come. We already are wanting you to come back, and we want you to tell others of what you saw here, because once you see Grand Rapids, you fall in love with it.
Yeah, when Nick and I do a lot of airport runs, and we pick up people, and we talk about Grand Rapids and like, what is about the city? And I'm like, oh man, this city is great. I'm like, you just opened a can of worms. Like, what do we got? 20 minutes? Because let me tell you. And then I'll get repeat or people that have been here before. They're like, I just love Grand Rapids. This is just a great city. I'm like, I know. I'm telling you.
Everyone always says it's very, very clean.
Oh, yeah. I'm from Detroit. That was the very first thing. The factories are clean.
Yeah. Well, they even said how everyone's just will like smile at you while you're walking down the street. I'm like, yeah, that's just what you do. I mean, not everyone, of course, but, someone catches your eye. I'm like, hey, what's up?
Or at least eye contact and
something.
And a nod.
Yeah. Well, the man nod, you're like,
yeah. Just look straight up.
So, but yeah, so I feel like I'm kind of doing that already because I do love the city. I mean, I don't like winter. Yeah. I will let you know that my wife and I's retirement plan is a couple months in Florida in the winter. So,
Snowbird.
Snowbird, yeah. But I do love this city. It's amazing. And I'm 42, so I grew up in the 90s. You didn't come downtown when I was in high school.
No,
you just Division and Wealthy, like. Yeah,
I moved here in the early 80s, and I was told, don't go downtown.
Yeah.
And it was one of these things, but you have to understand. So our first black mayor, he actually had such vision.
Okay.
And it was in the mid to late 80s, Lyman Parks. And so they were building the DeVos Performance Hall, and I go over this in the class, but this is the story because people ask who are DeVos and Van Andel and how come they're in all the buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And right away they're from strangers if they're pronouncing it, right? So anyway, so he was working, as mayor, and he had a big vision, and he had this hotel that was dilapidated. He needed to improve it, the Pantlin. And so when Mr. DeVos was giving this money, his wife actually took Lyman Parks out and said, hey, how are you going to recognize my husband? And Lyman thought about it for a while, and he goes, I've got this hotel, what do I do? So he decided to call it DeVos Performance Hall. Then he took out Mr. DeVos for dinner, and he said, how would you like to get in the hotel business? Little did he know that Bill Marriott and Mr. DeVos knew each other.
Oh.
And so Mr. DeVos knew he could glean that. And that, my friend, is why we have a JW Marriott, because of that relationship.
Wow.
Yeah. But at that time, what happened was all these very successful entrepreneurs got together and they formed an organization called Grand Action, and they systemically built the city.
Okay.
And because we have this collaborative, innovative, pioneering spirit, that is what separates and differentiates us from the different areas. And because of their leadership, we're number two in altruistic giving in the country, second only to Utah.
All right.
So when you move here, you have to give back. It's just a norm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it kind of started, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but like when the arena came in, that was when it started. It felt like it started there.
When Grand Action decided to,
because that was like what,
arena.
1996, somewhere on there,
right there. And then the only reason they built the arena first is because the land was more accessible. They really wanted to build the DeVos Convention Center.
Oh,
so Grand Action did that, and they also did the downtown market.
Oh,
and the Civic Theater.
Oh,
and they've recently disbanded, but individually they participated in a lot of buildings that you don't see their name on.
Yeah,
so they've really done a lot as the catalyst to keep things going.
Right.
And in March of this year, Grand Action disbanded
because
the momentum is going, and hopefully we'll keep that momentum. Yeah. So through those low times that we had in the mid, the 2008, 2009, they were working on Medical Mile.
Yeah.
And we still had things going on.
Yeah, that was a rough couple of years. The economy's great now. It's booming. You drive through the S-curve and you count like 10 cranes up, moving around. So that's pretty exciting.
It's the state bird of Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I know.
City bird.
Yeah, I'm so tired of construction. That feels like that's the state bird is the the
orange
barrels. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, those are our seasons, winter and construction.
Yeah, I'm actually ready for winter to get rid of the barrels. It's been crazy. So, how many ambassadors are there? I'm sorry, Nick. How many ambassadors are there currently?
We're crossing over 3,800 because I think I'm at 3,794. And I have third-party agreements with the universities that have hospitality programs. I'm in the middle of training all of them. So by the end of the year, we should have 3,900. But what is more impressive, I think, is that it's not the typical suspects. So there's over 650 businesses who have people who are CTAs.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I guess it depends what your definition of ambassadors are. There's this lovely certification program, but we also have this Brusader program where people can get a passport. And if you go to any brewery, there's 41 now that'll be in Kent County. And if you go to any brewery in Kent County, they'll have passports, these paper passports, or the digital app, which you can download. It's called the Beer City Brusader app. And if you get 8 visits, you become a Brusader.
Nice.
And since October of 2015, we've had 12,000 Brusaders. 12,000 times
that's
8.
A lot of beer.
Times 8 brewery visits. And about a third of them are from Kent County, and about a third of them are from Michigan outside of Kent County, and about a third of them are actually from outside of the state.
Okay.
So it's really cool that we've had 4,000 Brusaders that have gone to at least 8 different breweries from outside of Michigan. And that's only in the last 2.5, 3 years. So we're really excited to have, first of all, the CTA program is a very formalized version, I think, especially for locals. And I think for Lyft and Uber drivers, they should get personally certified. But you can kind of talk to your airport ridees, or riders, I should say, about how they can be an ambassador too. And they can kind of, learn to love the community and experience what Beer City has to offer.
Interesting.
Right. So there's something else too that's really interesting that would benefit the Uber and Lyft drivers. We have a culture pass. It's at culturepassgr.com. It's for those people that are staying in the area for 3 days. For $24, it reduces the rates of the attractions. And we're working on getting Meyer Gardens to be a part of that. Currently, they're not. But these are all things that, in sharing those things, your tips can go up. I mean, I mentioned earlier that we have a couple of restaurants. Well, we've got these little cards that say, look for the pin that we put inside of the guest checks. And whenever people get that and they look at it and they look to see if the person's wearing a pin, we've had a server get $100 on top of what she would have gotten.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And another one got $50 just because they're giving information about the area.
Yeah.
I kind of got into this because I had a cab driver in San Francisco.
Uh-oh.
He was No.
This is a good story.
Cab drivers are bad,
really
Lisa.
Good. No, no, this was way before Uber, way before Lyft.
Yeah.
Okay, so, keep that in mind. But this cab driver was so enthusiastic. He said, hey, where are you from? How long are you in town? What do you like to do? What can I direct you to? He was just so wonderful that it was like a breath of fresh air because, prior to that, cab drivers had but he was really excited about the fact that we chose to come to San Francisco.
That's such a huge thing when that happens. It makes you feel good. You're like, wow, this guy is like super into the city and he's smart. And instead of like, where you got to go?
A good first impression of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got these stickers that I make for the bus shuttles. They're the shuttles that go from the airport to the area hotels.
Okay.
That says, welcome to Grand Rapids, look for the pin. Because when people look for the pin, they know that that's a certified tourism ambassador. And so Uber drivers, Lyft drivers can put this in their car once they've gone through the program. And once they see the pin, they know that they're somebody that's, and they can even put the pin right on the,
the visor.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of a nice handoff too, right? Like you can say, okay, they get out, they're going to talk to the bellman or whatever, but they can look for that pin as they're walking to breakfast the next morning or things like that.
Yeah.
And to reiterate Lisa's point, so I'm from Ann Arbor. I moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan in 2011, and I've been working in hotels since in hospitality and now for the tourism bureau. But my first start, I didn't even own a car when I came to Grand Rapids, and I was actually a student in Allendale. And I was taking the bus from Allendale to Grand Rapids, and I was working at the Courtyard Marriott. And using the Experience Grand Rapids Visitors Guide was how I got better tips because I could take out the walking map in the back of it, and I could say, okay, people would come in for a coffee or a beer, and then they'd be going off to dinner, and sometimes some people might be upset that they're not going to be taking that meal and spending it in the hotel. First of all, who wants to do that? But
right.
what I realized is, when someone's sitting there having a beer and saying, where should I go for dinner? Well, what are you in the mood for? Seafood. Okay, well, there's a couple options, a price point, blah, blah, blah. But like to be able to give them real identifiable recommendations actually increased my tips, even though they were going and spending their money somewhere else because they appreciated that we took the time.
Yeah.
And as a business traveler now, I'm traveling about 100 days a year for work. I actually met Nick coming home from a business trip, but every time I go to a new city, it's oftentimes the first time I've been there.
Yeah.
And this sticks in my brain like glue. When I landed in Daytona Beach, there was I called a Lyft, and the car that comes to pick me up, it was actually a F-150.
Oh.
And it was like this guy who was probably 60, but he looked like he was 85 because he had like cigarettes he had smoked or something.
Rough life.
He comes in and he's got the kind of like this Ted Nugent look to him, and he had just like a Hawaiian shirt on and like Jimmy Buffett seat covers, and it was just like straw wicker cowboy hat. He's like, welcome to Florida. And I'm like, this is exactly what I thought Daytona was going to be like. And, and the whole time riding to the hotel, I'm asking him 100 questions, and he's telling me about the auto show that was in house and everything. But like, I gave him a great tip because he was just like unabashedly proud of the community that he lived in.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And so that's actually why I talked to Nick originally, because truly, you can change the bottom line of how much money you're making as a Lyft driver or an Uber driver or rideshare driver by being an ambassador for the community.
Yeah.
And so I actually, when I was at the Courtyard Marriott, spent the money on my own as a broke server without a car on the CTA class and went through it on my own without my coworkers or my boss even paying for it or giving me the time off work. I found a time to go on my own because I valued the certification and wanted to have that experience, because guess what? The ROI is there. You actually make that money back in tips.
Dave's
tenfold.
actually taken the course twice.
Yeah.
Overachiever.
Yeah, well, now I work for the Bureau, so let's talk
Yeah,
overachieving.
he did an internship at a PR firm, and I took that PR firm through the CTA program.
Okay.
And he was a part of that as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I mean, we've kind of talked about some of the things targeting the rideshare community. Why do you want to do that? I mean, I know the obvious why, but how do you think that we will be a good fit? We've kind of talked about that.
Because you're right there. You're the first impression,
Right.
and you are totally all about enhancing that visitor's experience. And I don't know about you, but when I go someplace, I like those little stories. Like, I'll give you a freebie. Okay, this is in the CTA class. But why is the blue bridge blue?
Not a clue.
City ran out of money. That's the primer color.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
when Grand Rapids, downtown Grand Rapids Inks came to the people and they said, okay, what color do you want the blue bridge to be? And they were like, well, blue, Grand Valley's right there.
Right.
They painted it a Pantone color that was the Grand Valley State University blue.
Okay.
But now they put on the colored lights, like for the
Yeah,
festival, and Susan G. Komen, it's pink and whatnot. But yeah, that's a little fact that you can throw at these people, and they're like, "Whoa, that's kind of cool."
That is interesting.
Right?
When you take that course, are you able to look at those facts? It comes in the binder that you have, or not? Oh, you got to remember them all?
No, they come out of my head.
Well, no, but how do we remember them?
Well, then you got to write them down. But you see, the thing is, I give you this binder, and if you're going to go through, you have this binder ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's like 187 pages. If you're going to go through the class, I got to give you something that's not in the book, right?
Yeah.
True.
So
Okay.
it's all these little stories, like
All right.
why are the streets crooked? Where are the Grand Rapids?
I'll have to write them down because I need to say them a bunch of times before I remember them, because that's a really cool thing. I would have never known
Yeah.
that. So
There's a lot of things you never know.
right.
One of the other cool things that I love telling people about is the Grand River restoration and what's happening there.
I
And
actually just learned about that at a golf outing. They were there.
right on.
You mean the
tell me more.
rapids?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything about it.
So like there's like some cool history there, and I could talk about it for an hour, but I'll give you the quick version. The Grand River actually used to be a meeting point for the Ottawa, the Potawatomi, and the Chippewa tribes. And it was actually the meeting place. Every 12 moons, they would come and have kind of trade talks, and they would talk about like the treaties and things. And the original French Canadian settlers, again, Michigan was all woods, and people got around by canoe.
Yeah.
And so originally, the fur trappers and things.
Yeah.
And you had to physically get out of your canoe and walk it for a mile, because the rapids from Ann Street to Wealthy Street drop about 18 feet.
Oh,
to give
wow.
you perspective, naturally. Like that's like Rocky Mountain level rapids.
Yeah.
Because from Wealthy Street to Lake Michigan, the next 36 miles of winding river, the river drops 4 feet.
Oh,
so
wow.
that gives you perspective. It drops 18 feet in like a mile of downtown. There used to be
from the
rapids.
6th Street Bridge down to where Charlie's Crab is.
Yeah, and the original Indian tribes could hear it from a mile away. It was so loud,
and this
so
is
that's
a
how they knew
very
where to meet.
spiritual thing to the Indians to bring back that rushing of the water in the rapids because it was a very spiritual essence to their community. It's the lifeblood of their community.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the Grand Rapids Whitewater and GR Forward, Downtown Grand Rapids Inc., the city. There's so much funding. It's an international project because the waterways touch Canada. It's a federal project.
And it's very
state
intricate
project.
because there's these mussels that purify like 15 to 16,000 gallons of water each.
Oh, wow.
So
And
these
they're
soft mussels,
endangered.
they have to be, harvested and kept at the Grand Rapids Public Museum and kept well while they do the river, and they have to make sure that the sea lamprey don't get through.
Yeah.
And so,
They're
all
invasive.
of this is going to be happening at once. I mean, there's going to be tiering of the river so that
Wow.
so that the river can be absorbed and not flood onto the banks, and that leveling can be reused for seeding throughout the year. But one area of the river is going to be fast, and the other side is going to be slow.
Okay.
What's really cool is that there's a place in the river where you're going to be able to do wakeboarding,
Oh,
which is really interesting. A guy
Wow.
from Colorado actually designed it for us.
wow.
And it's going to be accessible. There's going to be a place where handicapped folks can get into a kayak launch, and there's going to be, thing after thing after thing that are really cool pride points for the community. And the reason I bring it up is, again, as a Lyft driver, as an Uber driver, you're able to have pride in your community. You're able to talk about what's happening, the development that's sharing. After I worked at the Courtyard Marriott, I moved on to the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel, and I worked at Cygnus 27, which is on the top floor of that hotel. Cool restaurant. I was totally unqualified to work there when they hired me. Still kind of am. But the very reality of it was we had a 27-story view of the cranes in the sky, right?
Yep.
And I got better tips by saying that crane is working on that project. And this is going to be a New Holland brewery is going up over there, or this is going to be, the new part of the Grand Valley campus, or this is why it's cool for the community. And this is why you should be excited about it too. And that was a very real financial, the implications of being able to get better tips. When you're a better guest service ambassador, people have a better experience, the community grows, and you make more money.
Yeah.
Right. So that guest that asks, where are the rapids? So you can tell them in 2025, the rapids will be back.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So currently, you guys know all these are going on behind the scenes. I mean, we hear bits and pieces of it, but I didn't know all that was happening. Like 2025 for sure. Like that's, I mean, well
You know how
it's a soft,
construction is.
huh?
You know how construction is.
Well, yeah, it's a soft 2025. It
Right,
could be
it's a soft-
2030.
No, I don't think it'd be out that far.
Oh, okay.
So you'll start to see there's already work going on right now. And so a lot of what I mentioned with the international, state, federal, and local, there's a lot of grant money coming in a lot of different ways. It's funded publicly, it's funded privately, it's funded by local, state, and again, federal, international dollars. So a lot of that had to get lined up first. The next thing, and the thing that's been really going on this year, is there are 36 different pieces of property up and down the river on each side of the river. And whoever owns the property actually owns them to halfway through the river.
Oh, really?
And so there's the river and the river's edge, and there's two different components to it. And then, you have maybe 32 of the 36 pieces, but then you have to sue people with eminent domain, or you have to go into negotiations or buy or do this or get access. And there's a lot of legal backstory before any of these federal dollars will be released or state dollars will be released. So there's a lot of that has been going on. And so that's why you hear about it, but it doesn't seem like anything's happening.
Right.
And so that's why you start to see hotels like the Embassy Suites, which will be open in the first quarter of 2019, being built right on the river. Because guess what? Suburban Inns knows that the Grand River is happening.
Okay.
And so
It's coming.
some people are already bought in, and it's going to be a process. And to Lisa's point, 2024, 2025 will be when it's done. But you're going to see people. You're going to see
progress,
people
yeah.
with booties pulling muscles out of their spring of 2019.
Okay.
So and it'll keep going. And to learn more about that project, go to Grand Rapids Whitewater Project or go to the GR Forward Plan with DGRI and the Gold One Alliance to learn more. But again, things are moving forward. It's a long and complicated and arduous process, but it's a reason to be excited. And there's development. And again, to Lisa's point, answers about where are the rapids.
Right.
You have a good story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. So what can we offer for rideshare drivers? I know we're trying to get, well, we haven't talked about it on our social media at all or anything, but after this gets released, we'll obviously push it. But what are you guys offering for them as far as class goes?
Well, we're going to be training, I believe, 4 of you free of charge, so you know what's involved.
Right.
Speak to it a little bit more.
Yes.
But we want to reduce the rate for them
Okay.
because it's so important, like we do for Laugh Fest and Art Prize. It's so important for those people that are interfacing with guests. We know a lot of them are coming in to know. So we're looking at reducing that significantly going forward. The details have yet to be hammered out because there's a lot to do whether or not we have a facility, because facilities cost too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was going to mention to you, we looked at the schedule for all that, and I'm like, it's during the day. Like we work during the day so that like all our side jobs are at night. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be tough. But
well, that's something that we can customize
for sure.
You know, I've gotten the flexibility to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But typically the classes run from 8 a.m. to 12 noon or noon to 5.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that in this case, maybe a condensed version of it without doing the breaks, because breaks take time too, and just plowing through it. You know, we could probably get it done in 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, I have a driver in mind. You know, now the full-time drivers that's fine, right? Because that's what's great about Uber and Lyft. It's like you're your own boss. So they're like, yeah, we can do an 8 to noon. That's no problem. But I have someone in mind that, man, she's going to eat this up. Like, she's all about customer service, and she's a full-time driver, and she's great. So I can't wait to push this out. So
sure.
We're also going to be working, hopefully, ideally, conversations are ongoing with the Lyft and Uber offices, brick and mortar. So you can go and pick up visitor guides or our trails. We have an ale trail, a food trail, a music trail, and other kind of printed materials. Most of this information is all available online, and we would kind of first encourage most riders to go digitally. Again, the Brewsader Passport app is digital, and there are other digital resources you can be recommending while you're sitting there in the car, and they can be pulling up and referring to later. But some people really like having that kind of paper visitor guide or paper trail.
And there's dining and shopping guides too with a map of downtown Grand Rapids, which people find very helpful.
Okay. So we might want to, you know, we're going to be working again going forward to empower drivers to have some of these materials in their vehicle if they choose to.
Right.
Just as kind of a, you know, if a conversation organically comes up, just to have a resource. Again, good chance you get good tips.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
I mean,
thanks for the opportunity.
No,
we've been wanting to. I ride the Uber and Lyft all the time, and I've talked to the drivers, and nobody's really heard about the Certified Tourism Ambassador program. I'm like, you know, here's my card. Really, it's something that you should really investigate in, because you know you're our front line, and you're very important to us.
Yeah,
and this whole program was designed to make sure that every visitor encounter ends up in a positive experience.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, I'd absolutely like to, you know, echo the thanks for listening. But again, I'm a young guy. I'm 25. I've spent the last 7 years of my life in Grand Rapids in West Michigan, and I moved here from Ann Arbor. And the momentum and the excitement is palpable. And especially for locals, I think sometimes you can be kind of, almost take it for granted. And growing up in Southeast Michigan and moving here and seeing 10 cranes in the sky is like, gives me goosebumps kind of thing. So I want to just leave you guys with a sense of not only like you can make better tips and give better customer service, but like there's a cool story to tell in Grand Rapids, and we're excited that you guys are excited to share it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about the cranes. I get the same way. I feel like a nerd when I do. I'm like, man, this is so cool. Like, look at all not that I like all the construction. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me started. When you drive all the time, it's just a constant like,
Yeah, that movie theater going up has been a pain in our
butt. It's been a pain.
But I'll tell you what, there's going to be a Hilton Canopy when that's open. Yeah. And Canopy, fun fact, go Google this, guys. A Hilton Canopy is a brand that Hilton has. There's only 4 in existence in the world right now. Reykjavik, Iceland, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Texas, Portland, Oregon.
Really?
We're getting one of the first Hilton Canopies in the world. And JD Lokes and the folks at Studio C went to bat, and they worked with the city, and they worked with the right place, and they worked with the entire community to get that.
Ooh.
And there will be a lot more Hilton Canopies coming into the country and into the world. You know, it's a big brand that Hilton's proud of, but they're also very selective about it. And so, you know, construction is always complicated.
Yeah.
But again, it's, you know, the more you research into it, the more excitement that you can have. Be like, man, and guess what? fall 2019 that's going to be open, and you're going to be taking a lot of people from the airport to that hotel.
And that's the thing. I appreciate you bringing that up, because a lot of people, like, they complain about the construction like me, but they don't know the story behind that, and that was really cool to share. Well, that's cool.
Like the AC Marriott by the 20 Minute Live, it's going to be all Herman Miller furniture in the first floor. They just hired a general manager from Miami. It's going to be this great, 120, 150 room hotel. Again, you're going to be taking trips from the airport to that AC Marriott every day.
Nice.
So you'll be able to tell people, oh man, check out the lobby bar. It's going to be great. But like, again, as you know more, you're able to give a better experience, and you're able to get better tips.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. You. We really appreciate it. And once we get this edited and posted and all that good stuff, we'll get it rolling.
Right on.
So,
thanks
all
so
right,
much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.